is because there is a dearth of rightist intellectuals in India
That's
in the
true.
popular publishing scene.
That's true.
Because how many? I can name only 2 or 3, maybe Vikram Sampath, Mr. Swapan Das Gupta.
Swapan Das Gupta.
I would read 3-4 books a month, and at the end I would realize I recollect very little of every book, which you can't certainly call a waste, but you could regret on the fact that you did not utilize what you had or what you read to its full extent.
So hi Karan, welcome to the first interview of Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, which is on web on Zoom platform. The first question to you
Thank you.
by our viewers is that how did you start this concept of a book blog and a bookstagram
Okay.
altogether?
Okay. So naturally, I did not start it. Before I came into this, I did not know there was something called book blogging also. So maybe around in 2017, just at the same time, March or April, when I was reading quite a lot. Uh, I was going through John Grisham, Dr. Chaitanya. So there was this idea pending in my mind. If I'm reading so much, why not share it with a lot of people? Because if I'm taking so much information, there should be a space I can document it properly, and through which not just a lot of more people can benefit, and it would be a sort of an informal space, not like other formal spaces like newspapers, other review slots, where there is little connection between the reviewer and the people reading it. So I did not know before joining in that there would be such a vast reviewing space on Instagram too.
Right.
So it took me 6 months to get into that idea
Oh.
till October 2017.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, no, maybe should I do it? Should I do it? So naturally, like you must be knowing, you must be having the idea for Bharat Bhagya Vidhata long before you started it.
It was two
Yeah.
three years
So,
back. I had this idea that I have to do something on YouTube. But
yeah, I remember speaking to you one day about it long back,
long
maybe
back, long back.
2017. Yeah, long back. Yeah, when we were studying.
Yeah.
So I started off with small reviews, and then I came into touch with this great Bookstagram community, which was already in full form, where there were already people who were blogging about books, talking about books for the past 4 or 5 years, with a vast
Right.
amount of experience in this field. So rather than I thought ki this is serious business, and 6 months later or 1 year later, I started taking a lot seriously than I did when I was starting.
Yeah.
So if you ask me now, okay, why you going to do this so seriously, or are going to make content so frequently? So honest answer would be no. Obviously, I have the luxury of telling you that, oh, I had this vision. I wanted to make this kind of reviews, such kind of photographs.
Yeah.
So there was nothing like that. This was just I had a lot of time in college, so I came up with this, and
Of
hopefully
course.
it's going well.
But then coming back to the question, the second part is that there are a lot of book blogs on WordPress and blog posts, but their
Yes.
outpost kind of thing doesn't necessarily come on Instagram. I mean, when
Yeah.
when I have watched your Instagram page, it's just beautiful. Like it's not
Yes.
someone just clicking the photos of the book. Anyone can do it. But the way
Yeah.
and the background and the light you provide for the books is just amazing. So,
Thank you.
like,
Thank you.
how do you plan it or how do you do it? What comes to your mind before doing it?
Uh, First and foremost, it's a book. Mm. It starts with what I'm reading. So, when I go to a bookstore, maybe I come through someone's review about a book. So, uh, I go through the book first. Okay, is this something I want to read, and after reading, is this something I would like to suggest and recommend?
Yeah.
And the photography, the point you talked about, there are a lot of there is a lot of discussion right now, even in the Bookstagram community. There are two types of bloggers right now. There are book photographers and there are book reviewers.
Right.
So there are a lot of people, and both are respectable lines of working, because as you said, anybody can click photographs, but not everyone can click good photographs.
Right.
Yeah, and so there are two parallel fields going on without any recognition of who is doing what. So mine was okay. Good photographs will get you a lot of engagement and will take you to a lot of people,
Yes.
but nobody sees a good photograph of a book and says like, "No, I'm going to read this book."
Yeah.
It's the review,
Right.
which is quite neglected right now. So uh, blogs. The problem with blogs is not many people in India, at least, are well versed with reading blogs. I hardly see people who fire up their WordPress and go like, "Today I'm going to read some reviews." Never happens. It's mostly through some WhatsApp link or Facebook. So I wanted a platform which is popular, where I can reach every layman without doing a lot of hassle.
Yeah.
So basically, when I started out, I started with short reviews and the images which I could manage.
Right.
Suddenly and gradually, I realized that okay, we can do this better. We can make thematic pictures for books.
Mm.
For example, I'll give an example. I frequently visit the library in Bandra. So one day I found a book named Muslims in Indian Cities,
Mm.
which is co-authored by, you would know this person, Christoph Jaffer lot.
Mm.
Yeah. So when I was coming back from the library, going home, thinking about reading this book, it was a Friday evening. So there was a whole namaz thing going on near the station in Bandra
Yeah.
East.
Banner. Yeah, that happens.
Right, yeah. So I thought, why not click a picture of my book, which I just acquired, with these guys in background. So
That
these conceptions for
that's a
every
very good
post
presence
come
of
out of
mind.
nowhere. Yeah, yeah, right. I surprised myself that day.
Yeah, you do.
So, so these conceptions come naturally. I don't have to sit. I can do this for this post, or I could do this for a book. Sometimes you can do that, but most of it is spontaneous. And
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of images on my feed
Mm.
where there are newspaper cuttings at the back, or
Yes.
there is a certain place in Mumbai, or maybe a certain background which the person will realize only after they read that book. So there is symbolic meaning in most of those
Right.
pictures
Yes,
wherever
definitely.
I can put them.
That's why I asked you the question that your pictures are not so. There are two steps of how a person can get to the book. First is
Yeah,
the existence of the book. For example,
yeah,
William Dalrymple's book, the recent one,
yeah.
the controversial one.
Okay.
So this book exists is known from your picture
Yeah.
and what and the feeling of I want to read this book. देखो, the fact is any non-fictional good stuff when you look at it, my natural feeling is I want to read that book. But these
Yeah.
are fantasies. These are
Yeah.
fantasies. But
Yeah.
then you ought to have some priority. Okay, this is the first book I'm going to read. After that, this is the book I want to read, and then with that kind of link. So I think
Right.
what your blog does is a two-step, process. First is okay, this book
Hmm.
exists. Second is I
Yes.
want to read this book, or I don't want to read this
Yeah.
book.
Right.
So I think that's a fantastic way to do it. It's managed, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell all the viewers honestly. I have seen this book blog grow, and it's been very slow, very consistent. I mean, I'll give it to Karan because I am not the most consistent person on this earth.
I'm not the most either, but I try to post as many as possible, because I know people in this industry who post at least one review or image every day to
Oh,
engage with the viewers. This is a level of consistency they operate
huge.
with, and you can see that result on their follower count or their
Yes,
engagement or
yes,
their popularity. So in the end, it's a personal choice. Like you said, the book you're going to read, it requires a lot of self awareness to know what books you want to read.
exactly.
Because if you see the publishing market right now, there are hundreds of great books coming out every week
Agree.
in India and around the world.
Hmm.
So naturally, you're not going to get to read all of it. mainly because you can't read that fast and because you don't have that kind of bank balance.
Yes. Oh
Books are
yes.
quite
Oh
expensive.
yes. And books should be brought.
So
Like book should be
yeah,
bought.
but yeah, from proper bookstores, or sometimes it's very feasible for all of us to buy all of them from the bookstore. So we resort to other means which should not be talked about openly. So it comes from a lot of self-awareness that what you want to read, you have to prioritize. Okay, this book is helpful for me. It would go a long way in building my opinion or my thought about something that is important to me in life.
Mhm.
So
But then this
when
is the frequent question asked from the readers of any genre, or say frequent reader, is how do you choose your books?
because you have to choose, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
So my basic in the different two processes for choosing books you want. So first I talked about is self-awareness, what you want to read, what you like. So if you like reading about geopolitics, so you should be reading Robert Kaplan, Robert Kagan, a lot of those other. But if you sit with something like you sit with like Fault Lines by Dr. Raghuram Rajan,
Yeah.
when you don't have any background to understand what that great guy is saying through his book. So even a great book by a great former governor is of no use to you if you don't understand it. So the first point is self-awareness.
Yes.
Second is go through the background check, a little background check of the author, because you should know what this guy is coming from. Where did the author concept? Where does this book conception start? Why he's writing this, and why do I need to read this? Or does it have a certain kind of bias?
Hmm.
Is he from a political party that has a very strong reservation about some topic he's writing about?
Definitely.
And should I let my opinion or my knowledge about a certain topic be affected by this author?
Yes. Yes. I
Because
mean,
basically, reading a book is an investment.
yeah.
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of your emotional and mental energy.
Also, it's yeah. I think this is very important. No one really thinks about books this way, or there are very less people who thinks about this way. That when you choose a book, you are making a choice into indulging into certain kind of ideology,
Yes,
and
yes,
that should be a very after a point of time, when you are like an avid reader and you can read one book for a week, and that is a different god stage where, where you reach that god stage. But when
we're
for the
still achieving
starters
that.
and for the beginners, when you are making a choice, I think
Mhm.
that should be a very aware choice. It shouldn't be a random
Yes,
choice, because that is
yes,
discrediting your mental thinking or thought, and second is it's
yes,
discrediting the greatness of that author also.
yes, and it also consumes a lot of your time, which you could be using for a lot of good things.
Other
So
good book.
yeah, other good books. See, there are no bad books for any kind of person in any time,
Yeah.
because if there are no bad books, you will never understand what a good book is.
Yeah.
Okay, so uh, it the first point is what do you exactly want to read about? You
Mm.
should be clear in your mind. Even if you go to a string of books that you did not like to read, you can
Mm.
always take guidance from people. There are n number of people who can guide you with that.
Definitely.
Okay, and it does not need an expert to tell you that read this book, you like this. Any even a friend can do that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
just need one wise friend. So first is self-awareness, what you want to read. Second, it also boils down to what you like to read. So
Mm.
suppose I would like to know about economics, but it is not a topic of my choice. I get bored reading economics, or maybe I just can't digest all these ideas.
Mm.
But I understand that I have to do this somewhere
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it is an important part of my
Definitely.
career, maybe. So you have to take that also into account. And third is you have to, even after you've done reading so many books, you have to make another choice that you have to sit back and reflect if these books are helping me.
Yeah.
Because if you're putting effort into 400 pages every month and you're coming out with recollection of nothing, nothing tangible
Yes,
that you can use in your life.
exactly, exactly.
That is a very frustrating point. I personally have gone through it. Is I would read 3 4 books a month, and at the end I would realize I recollect very little of every book, which you can't certainly call a waste, but you could regret on the fact that you did not utilize what you had or what you read to its full extent. So it all comes down to a personal choice, but it's like a process. Everybody needs to, and I'm not claiming that I've reached the pinnacle of that process, but reading a lot in the at least the last 2.5 years while I'm blogging and reading through various genres, I've come to a at least conclusion that there have to be certain parameters. Otherwise, you just wander off reading a lot of books about. You'll be collecting a lot of information with no way of collating it into something tangible.
I mean, this is great what you have said about you not just pre-reading about how to make choices. It's very great
Yes.
about how you're talking about post-readings because this is something which no one talks about. It's just you read books, you read so you do all these motivational pages. You read more, you get better, and blah
Yeah,
blah 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 blah.
yeah.
But then if
I,
it's not reflecting into it, then it's of no use essentially.
no, because if I see a lot of people doing these challenges, like, 100 books a year or 60 books a year. So I appreciate their effort they're doing. But my main question is, after reading 60 books a year, do you really recollect the amount of data that you read?
Yeah.
What is the output? So
Yeah.
rather than reading 60 books in a haste, you'd rather read 30, which you do very properly.
Yeah.
Rather than increasing your sources, we're not
Limit
in a
your
race.
sources.
Yeah, we are not in a race to beat somebody over the number of books you read in a year. So make it qualitative rather than quantitative. And unless you can do it both qualitatively and quantitatively, which is a
That's
very
that's the god level.
uh, for
And it
experts and
comes
all.
it comes
For experts,
our experts. But then I would like to talk about on a little specific topic which I think is of joy for both of us basically, which is
mhm,
geopolitics of India and the world.
yeah,
uh,
very interesting.
Very interesting. I mean, we both are, we share some of the choices we make, but there are other topics where we differ on
Yeah, yeah,
opinions
a
and
lot
on
of them.
a lot of them. But then I think the modern books of geopolitics, especially when it comes to India, have been after 2014 uh,
Yes,
cautious of making
yeah,
any kind of loose remarks and allegations on the Indian geopolitics, which did happen before 2011-12, from the
okay.
books and comparison which I have seen, I have read. What do you want to say?
So, to comment on this thing, I don't think I have enough. Uh, I have read enough to comment on the two kind of books that came before 2014 or 2000, after 2014, because I am yet to read anything that was published in
Hmm.
2005 to 2010-11. I just gone through a book named Samudra Manthan by C. Raja Mohan.
Hmm.
Okay, so I cannot really comment on that, but uh, one inflection point I think the reason why geopolitics uh, become a point of contention in even in the publishing industry is one. It's not the only point, but people are becoming more aware,
Yeah.
and with the publishing industry picking up, a lot of experts are writing about it,
Hmm.
which has kicked off after 2010s when after China's rise,
Yes.
because geopolitics for most of the laymen was limited to Pakistan. For
Yes.
Indians, was limited to either Pakistan, and we were completely oblivious of the potential and threat that Indian Ocean poses to us,
Yes.
which
Or
have
the
been made
or as an opportunity. I mean, I would
the
rather put
opportunity.
it this way. Rather than
Yeah,
threat, I would put it as an opportunity because
yeah, that
again,
would be a better
this
word to say that. Yeah,
because before this is something which a lot of people ignore, that before uh, trying to capture Indian Ocean, uh,
yeah,
China is still very much engaged and busy into two of its own domestic maritime issues, which is South China Sea and the
South
Strait
China
of
Sea.
Malacca. The state of Malacca,
Malacca, right?
again, second thing, which a lot of people ignore. The state of Malacca is rather of equal importance to China as it is
It's one,
South
it's
China
the
Sea.
second most important prioritized area in terms of global trade of oil and others. It's very ignored. We don't know why, but we'll know as we study more about this. So, major books that came after this 2014 are maybe choices,
Yes.
which are not directly they are foreign policy books basically. Choices and How India Sees the World by Shyam Saran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these books are primarily on India's foreign policy, but they
Mm.
also touch upon various parts about geopolitics. Because if you're discussing foreign policy, you cannot discuss it without geopolitics.
Yeah.
They are very intertwined. And the majority foreign geopolitical books I have read are by American authors, by
Mm.
Robert Kaplan.
Mm.
So the likes of Asia's Cauldron or maybe Monsoon by Robert Kaplan.
Mm.
There is also a very great author named Tim Marshall, whose book I read just last week. It's called The Prisoners of Geography,
Oh,
where the author takes 10 important maps from the world
okay.
independently. Like, for example, China,
Mm.
he'll take China's geography
Mm.
question, Russia, its history, its geography, United States, Western Europe, Africa, and so on. So it's very compartmentalized and it doesn't get mixed. So you don't get confused in various issues. I would suggest this to readers. I'm going to write this review about this one. Once I get my hands on the hard copy post
Yeah.
this lockdown.
Sure. On this topic of different authors and different books with post written, you attend a lot of literature festivals. I mean, I've seen that from your
Yes,
Instagram stories, posts,
a lot of them.
and the kind of enthusiasm you have for literature festivals is next level. It's very rare I have seen. There are two people
Yes,
I know. One like you who are actually very enthusiastic about literature festival and who
yes,
pick their shows very carefully. Who not shows,
yeah.
I wouldn't say shows, sessions. who,
Sections, yeah.
who pick their sessions very carefully. Okay, these are the limited sessions I want to attend. Baki time I will chill.
Yeah,
If there's no session, good session from 4 to 6, I wouldn't just go and sit anywhere for just
anywhere. Yeah.
for the sake of it. Okay, and
Yes.
the second people are, you know, uh, who just want to show that they go to literature festivals. But we'll not talk about the latter part. I'll
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
so.
you don't need to.
Uh, so how do you make these choices, and why are you so enthusiastic about literature festivals? Because I'll tell you my opinion after you express yours.
Okay, you can go first. Maybe because maybe if you have any, because you don't, you make a conscious choice of not going to literature fest most of the
Mhm.
time. I heard
Yes.
you say that.
Yeah.
So maybe if you have any conceptions or misconceptions about them, I could clear them later.
All right. All right. So these are the two primary reasons why I consciously don't attend any literature festival, small, big, free pass, no pass, anything of that. The first is the first is that um, it's the major reason is 40-45 minutes of a panel discussion doesn't give you anything.
Oh,
These are the opinions which are expressed by those people, and most of the times I wouldn't generalize all the authors and all the speakers in the panel, but most of the times these people are very 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 conscious, with exceptions like Anupam Kher, that we don't make any controversial news.
hmm,
So their answers, their opinions are tailored to be not true and very whitewashed in a way, to please all the
yes,
sections of the society. Okay, I don't want to say this, but I don't also want to say that. So that is something which I
yeah,
don't like. If you have to say something, and if I don't,
yeah,
if you don't agree with me, if I don't agree with you, it's totally fine. And for this, I give it to Ramchandra Guha. I mean, I have never seen
yep,
a man as frank as Guha in literature festival
yeah, right.
of whatever he is. And second point, the lesser important. is a complete biased structure and composition of panels in those
Hmm.
literature festivals. You
Yes,
can't
yes.
have you
I get
can't
this a
have
lot.
all the journals and say is freedom of speech under the threat. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So these are my two reasons. Now you go.
So this is an indictment of the literature festival circuit in India. So what you talked about is true to a certain extent, but I cannot agree with you on both these points beyond that extent because if you see, I'll tackle the first point, elitist. There is a lot of complaints about literature fest being elitist,
Mm,
about only how a certain section of journalists or authors are presented, which I have seen changing over the last 3 4 years. I have been attending.
okay.
Okay. Second, not all their opinions in Literal Fest are hogwashed or whitewashed, I could say,
Mm,
because there is a certain Indian conception about having something good. It's not good unless it's sensational.
mm,
Because I have attended innumerable sessions where there was
mm,
not one controversial or comment which made you sit up, but in the end, these are people who have been working in the field or studying about that certain field
mm.
for like 10, 20 years
Yeah.
on an average.
Mm,
Or maybe even author starting out with one or two books has a lot of experience on a certain topic
mm.
more than us.
Yeah, definitely.
So 45 minutes with them
Mm,
for free in an air conditioned room,
yeah.
of the same 45 minutes which you would be outside on the marine drive chilling, talking about some match 2 days ago, or either some trending movie that you
Yeah.
watched last week. So if at all you're going to utilize or waste time doing something like this, why not sit for 45 minutes? Why not listen to what this guy has to say?
Yeah.
Okay, why not take 2 3 points which you agree with or you think I should imbibe and leave the rest? Because of course you're not going to agree with all of what everything is the
Yeah.
panel is going to say.
Right.
The second is, uh, there is a complaint that all the literature fest are very uh, the panels and the authors that feature in literature panels belong to the leftist ideology a lot. This has been a constant complaint I have heard from a lot of people. Yeah, and that's why they consciously avoid this. But
Mm.
I'll tell you, this is because there is a dearth of rightist intellectuals in India in
That's
the
true.
popular publishing scene.
That's true.
Because how many? I can name only two or three, maybe Vikram Sampath, Mr. Swapan Das Gupta.
Sokandas Gupta.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
uh, barely two or three. And this is not my point of contention, but this was once pointed out by William Dalrymple,
Yeah.
who is the founder and main hand in formation and the working of Jaipur Literature Festival.
Mm-hmm.
That there is a dearth of rightist intellectuals, and even if we try to incorporate them, the odds are always going to be stacked against them
Yeah, yeah.
because the panels are majority going to look like they belong to a particular ideology, or the topics are leaning to one end of the spectrum. But we have to keep in mind that leaving aside ideology, every session and every book and every author always has something good to give to us.
Mm-hmm.
And by sitting there for maybe 1.5 hour, uh, unless it is very biased or goes to an extreme which we cannot tolerate, there is always something good to take from there. And this is a place where you'll find people from various workspaces, various industries, uh, talking about various ideologies, and you'll find this kind of a carnival nowhere around in India. Because the reason I like literary festivals, I like to spend a lot of time. I literally clear my schedule for 3 4 days when it comes in
I
November,
know. I know. I've seen.
because it exposes me to a lot about a world which I haven't experienced generally throughout the year. I'm looking for people who read books, who talk about books. as passionately as I do. So this is a ready-made cutout made for me in a space in a beautiful area of Marine Drive to go and interact with all these people, meet authors. That is one of the most important things. I get to meet authors,
Hmm.
which aren't really accessible throughout the year. I
And
can get my book signed.
and you can get very
Which is,
blurry pictures with them. Huh?
yeah, but they are very good. I remember getting one with Thomas Friedman
Arey,
2 years
yes,
back.
I remember.
Yes, it is one of the highlights of my, and it was my first, no, second year of literature festival. So yes, these are myths. I have done a post. Maybe we could add a link below this video
Yeah,
after it's done. Debunking myths about literature festivals,
definitely.
where I talk about in detail the myths that are prevalent in the society about literature festival. Of course, there are problems, but uh, until everything is sorted, we could take the best what you are getting from.
Mm-hmm.
That's my motto. And in fact, in the last 3 4 years, I have driven a lot of such friends with such misconceptions to the literature festival scene. So the thing for which I was going
I
alone would
would
have
be
been,
like to be, I would like to be one of them from next
yeah,
year.
let's go this year.
If they happen due to this pandemic, so
Maybe they will, because
they will.
I don't think this will last till October or November. So
Yeah,
I used to go alone for such things in 2016. Now I have to make choices with whom I have to go. To turn down people. Okay, okay, no, I'm going with people. I have friends going already. So it's a nice thing.
yeah. So the last question to you, Karan, and this was something which I wanted to ask because we all are at a non-earning stage right now.
Yes, yes.
How to manage finances which we spend on books?
Yeah, right. So basically, we are living off our parents' income right now.
Totally.
Totally. So at at the most, you can buy maximum 2 books,
Per month.
which are
Yeah.
roughly going to cost you around $1,000 every month. So I have a few hacks where you can get books literally for free, or maybe at throwaway prices here and there. So first is go to street markets,
Uh,
wherever you find in Bandra, Borivali, Churchgate,
uh,
and buy second-hand books,
Okay.
which are usually for on an average 100 to 400 bucks, not more than that.
Mm.
And they're usually at 50 to 60% of the original prices. Make sure you buy original but second-hand books and not pirated copies.
Right.
Yeah, because there are two types of books they sell. There are the second-hand books which readers have given sold to them,
Hmm.
which we can make good use of, and there are the pirated reprints that come in the market 2 weeks after the original book has launched.
Yeah.
So
But I
if
think
you,
it's very easy these days to make out what is pirated and what is original. I think today.
yeah, it's very easy. In one look, you can, after touching a book, you
Touching a book,
100% know
yeah.
this one is pirated. Yeah, the prints, the color. So so try to get as many books as possible from the second-hand market, because anyway they, and the it is very beautiful to read from pre-owned books.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are markings. There is some lost bookmark. There is
Mm.
somebody's photo inside over there. So a lot of memories in those books. Plus, if you're done reading something like this, you can always return it back to the seller and get around 30-40% of your money back.
Definitely.
So this second is joint libraries,
Okay.
because it's very obvious that you're not going to get introduced to a lot of books through the internet or newspapers all the time. A lot of the best books I have ever read, I have been introduced through to my libraries. To make
Yes.
it point, to join at least 2 or 3 libraries inside the city, which give access to good books, irrespective of the cost. Because I don't think uh, taking a membership of for a year by about 1,000 rupees is a lot for most of us.
Most of us. I'll tell you, we both are members of Dosti House, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes,
And
I go there very frequently.
it's an amazing. So I went there as a part of a different program altogether, but then they
Yeah, yeah,
gave
I
me
know
a
that.
free membership. आए हो तो लेके ही जाओ basis पे. So, but then it is. I I mean the not just books, the magazines which are there are,
Magazines,
the
the best in the
digests,
world.
the digests which come there are, I mean, the worth of their monthly digests would be in thousands. Just
Yes,
the
yes,
subscriptions,
yes, correct.
if not lakh, but thousands, so
I'll
definitely.
give you an example. Uh, if you read something like The Economist or Foreign Policy or Foreign Affairs, these magazines, they cost you around 300, 400 in Indian rupees for every issue. And this library gives it for free at a membership of 200 per year.
I know. I had joined Economist for like half a year before today,
Yeah,
like 2 3 months ago, but it was heavy price on my pocket. I mean,
yeah, because
ten
300
thousand
rupees is
rupees,
not
8 to 10,000 rupees for 6 months for anything is not worth.
it's a lot. You could get courses in that price. So join a lot of libraries. Huh? Make the most of it. Spend your days at libraries.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere else because this amount of freedom it comes at a sacrifice of a lot of things.
Yes.
You have to dump a lot of play sessions. You have to miss movies. You have to miss a lot of functions. But sit in libraries because that environment is later going to help you in inculcating your habit of studying and also reading at a larger extent. So first is second-hand books. Second is go to libraries. Third is look out for book exchanges in
Oh,
the city. No. So there are a lot of uh, like book clubs or formal meetings or even literature festivals that have this concept of book swap.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so the basic concept is you get one book of your choice which you want to get. Of course, it shouldn't be something like children's books or maybe a textbook, but you get a nice book you have read, you don't want it, bring it, keep that one, take one book of your choice away. Okay, so this way we're you're getting yourself a lot of space by removing the old books which you don't want,
Yeah.
and at the same time, for no cost at all, you're getting
You
back
can new
one
book.
book. Only one thing from this Tata Literature Life of 2019,
Hmm.
I brought as many as 18 books swapped,
Oh, wow,
and all of them are prime non-fiction.
wow.
And 18 books are good enough to last me for 3 4 months.
Aram se.
For
For some people,
one
for
book
one
cost.
year. For some
Yeah,
people like me.
maybe
For
more
some
than that.
people like me.
Yeah, yeah, maybe because you have different priorities too.
I
Yeah,
should have
it's not a
I
bad
should
thing
have
to read
only
like
four.
this.
I should only have 4 books a year, but I'm here still reading more than that. But anyway,
No, it's fine. It's fine. You can't read textbooks all day.
let's not
So
go
the
that.
third
Let's
is
not go. I'll just cry here.
so third is this book swaps,
That's-
and you can always these are the formal methods. And
Mhm.
again, after that, you always have your friends who have good books. You can hunt out people in the city who have book collections who are ready to change books for maybe a week or so.
What is your opinion on this 100 rupees per kg book thing?
I love it. Absolutely love it because I go to them frequently.
Yeah.
There is Books by Weight,
Yes.
and there's one more upcoming. I'm forgetting the name right now, but I went there last month in March, I guess. Yeah, no, not March, end of February.
Okay.
So, uh, so you need to understand that these books at 100 rupees per kg are books which have been pre-owned or discarded in the market already.
Hmm.
So anyway, that they're not going to sell at the retail price.
Right.
So why not buy them at the whatever the price
Wait.
they're giving? Wait, yeah, why not?
And I think a book is not more than 150, 200, 300 grams. Like you can easily
Yeah,
have,
unless you're buying a fat hardcover by maybe Thomas Friedman, something like that.
but then it still is not 1 kg. So even if you are getting Thomas Friedman for 100 rupees, it's not a bad uh,
Yeah,
price. So
yeah.
on this note, Karan, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for
And
having me. So I have been following this before this conception was even in form. So
Yeah.
when you are talking about mulling about the idea of making something like this, so
Yes.
it's a great initiative, and the amount of effort you're putting into it simultaneously while you are at a very crucial juncture of your career
Yes.
is very commendable. To take out time, to take out that much effort, to put into something that can enrich people
Mm.
into reading, discussing, debating about political issues that are important in daily life, provided uh, in the long run something like this shouldn't succumb to political biases or
Yes.
something which polarizes viewers, because there is a huge
Definitely.
chance of getting carried away. So I'm hoping you
Definitely.
take
Yes.
you continue this tempo and make the most out of it.
Yes.